All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for spending their afternoon, evening with USA Triathlon and their fellow club directors around the country. My name's Chad Cunningham. I am the club program manager with USA Triathlon. I've worked in many roles with USAT over the past 10 or 11 years. So I know a lot of you have seen my face and I've recognized many of you as well. I want to quickly introduce our team here. We have Liz Kular, who's our director of service. Liz will talk here in a second as well. Also, Lacey, if you want to raise your hand. Lacey is our service coordinator that works with everything in the company, from membership services to assisting with our clubs program. So you maybe have heard from her regarding missing club rosters or safe sport requirements as well. She can always assist with things as well as myself. So feel free to send us an email if you have any questions. Additionally, today we have Glenn Humphrey, who is the IOA vice president. He'll be talking on club insurance here in a second, but we'll have a few things of just some housekeeping that we'd like to clear out of the way before moving on to diving into the club insurance. As many of you know, and I'm sorry if I spammed you too much, but club insurance and certification is open right now for the 2023 season. I want to make sure there's no lapse in coverage for anybody. So I've sent a lot of you some emails. If you're not getting my emails and you're not renewed yet, just let me know and I can help set you up with a club renewal. And if you're a coach that is looking to take advantage of club insurance, as well as the whole club program as well, shoot me an email at chad.cunningham@usatriathlon.org, or you can reach us all at clubs@usatriathlon.org. With that renewal period being open, there was two different kind of early bird benefits, or there was a few actually, but one was a Rudy Project helmet giveaway and Newton running shoes giveaway. Keep your eyes open. Should hit inboxes or mail. I think we have somebody with some audio. If you could mute yourself as well, that'd be fantastic. But all those things are hitting before the end of the year. I want to make sure you guys get to your prizes, your rewards for renewing early as soon as you can, and feel free to auction those off or distribute them to club members or however you see fit. But the big benefit that I've heard a lot of people have very much interest in is the January membership drive. If you renew your club or purchase a club certification before the end of the year, you're going to get a code that's good for 20% off of every membership within your club. So it's going to be a code that I'll send out next week, and I'll follow up in January as well with the code, sending out the code again. But it's going to take 20% off each and every one of your members' USAT annual membership. So it's going to save $10 per person. That adds up very quickly. They just need to renew in the month of January. So if you have any questions on that, just let me know. And then I wanted to touch base on insurance certificates. Those have started going out last week. They will continue to go out, but if you haven't received your insurance certificate, they'll come directly from IOA. Let me know if you haven't received it, and we can work with IOA and make sure you do get it. But check your spam folder if you haven't got it yet, because sometimes they do end up there. And then, yep, additional insured which Glenn will probably cover as well. Those can be added on now that insurance has been renewed. So just let us know if you have any issues or questions or not seeing those, and we can get you all squared away. All right, that's enough.
Hey, Chad.
Go ahead.
Can we ask what? Yeah, you said as a certified coach, you have a certified club at no cost, $50 value, right?
Certified coaches do receive a certified club at no cost. That doesn't include club insurance. Club insurance is extra, but USAT does still pay a substantial amount of the actual costs for club insurance. Do you need that code, Dan?
I guess I do.
All right, I'll follow up with you. And if anybody else needs the code, just let me know, and we will get you that code so you can do your renewal.
Yeah.
So Chad, Luthar from Columbia. We've already done all this. We did it way back in September, October.
Yep.
Are we just do we still get the $10 and the 20% and all that, or do we not?
Anybody that's renewed before the end of the year will get that discount code for their members to renew at a 20% discount during the month of January.
So we have to renew for 2 years then. We got to renew again in order to get that.
As long as you're renewed in September, you should renew. That would cover you for the following year, 2023.
But how do we get the $10 back?
Oh, for personal memberships. So
Yeah.
anybody that already has a membership, they'll need to renew again, but it will add an additional year at the end of their current expiration date for their year. So if you have a member that
So-
renewed in September, they can renew in the month of January, and it'll extend a full year onto the end of their membership. So everybody can take advantage of the discount.
So what you're saying is next year we should wait.
To renew a personal
Because,
membership?
sure, because when I've got seniors graduating, they're not going to renew maybe. So we're going to wait. We'll get the deals that you give us at the last minute rather than being good tri members and signing up in September, along with the insurance too. I mean, I don't want to whine at you, but this is not well thought out. You know, you need to reward the people who are rewarding you early in the semester.
Okay, so that's with a school, which likely is a little different. We can work with you on that, Louis.
Okay.
And from what I'm hearing is that you're stacking on the benefit to the members. So whether they renewed early or now, if their membership is good through, let's say, September next year, that benefit adds to them at the end of their year. So they're not being penalized for registering early.
Well, if they renew, but if they're seniors and they don't do tri anymore, then they don't.
It's a little different for the collegiate and high school clubs. High school clubs receive 10 free memberships, so it's a little different. We'll work with you with that. So club memberships does run on a calendar year basis. Just send me an email, Louis, and we'll get you squared away. Okay.
Great, super, thanks.
No problem. And finally, I just want to talk quickly on what this is, what you guys are seeing here. We're going to have a club president speaker series in 2023. This is the first one closing out this year. What I want them to be is not necessarily USAT or anybody talking to you about something. It's going to be clubs sharing information on best practices and different topics. So each monthly call will include a different topic. Some that we've thought of are finding sponsorships, locating club discounts with race directors, planning club activities and scheduling, and then possibly like how to find volunteers and get them engaged with the club structure. So if you have an idea of something that you would like to see shared, and it's maybe something you're struggling with within your club, it's something you're being very successful with, let us know. If you're doing something that's very successful, let us know, because we'd love for you to present to the club community on. This is a topic that I'm super proud of, because we have 20 sponsors that show up for our club, and I'd like to share what I've done to help this club out. That's what I'd like you guys to do. So that's what we'll be coming out each month with it, a whole speaker series. And yeah, if you're interested in talking on it, let me know. And if you're interested on finding other topics that you would like to see on it, let us know as well. That's all I have. Liz, if you would like to talk quickly on E2.
Sure. Well, a couple of things. First off, Earl Walton, our Director of Education, was hoping to be here this evening, but in the 11th hour, his wife reminded him of a holiday Christmas party that he has to go to. So you get me on E2. So Endurance Exchange, it's in Austin this year, which is an amazing place to go. And we have planned some really great programs. We have some terrific speakers. Your club should look at this as sort of a winter training camp. We actually have access to the Texas pool, which is like one of the best swim facilities on the planet, where we'll have coaches on deck to work with athletes. There's so many cool things about it. Chad can send you a link to Endurance Exchange. We do have discounts if you bring additional people. And for those of you who are looking for an opportunity to host an annual meeting, this is the place to do it. Bring as many of your members as you can. We'll secure a room for you. You can have an annual meeting. We'd love to have you join us. It's going to be terrific, and Austin is a great place to go in January. So we hope you join us. The other thing I wanted to share, and I'm super, super excited about this, because Chad and I have been talking about this since I arrived at USA Triathlon, which was about a little over 2 years ago. And that is, how do we bring value to this club program? Because there's some real opportunities, and there's so much that we can be doing together to grow the sport. So the cool thing is, in 2023, one of our organizational priorities for USA Triathlon is driving value across all of our constituent groups. And we consider constituents coaches, race directors, members, and clubs. So one of the things that Chad and I worked on over the last couple of weeks is the club value proposition. And it's pretty exciting. It's like, how are we going to create this really amazing club program for you guys that gets you excited about being part of USA Triathlon? The speaker series is part of that. And we know from, gosh, it was maybe 2 years ago, Chad, when we had our first sort of meeting with the clubs, a lot of the clubs are looking for best practice information. Am I a nonprofit or am I not a nonprofit? Do I add juniors to my club? Do I not add juniors to my club? So these are all things that we can get speakers for you. We can get panels together for you. We want these monthly speaker series to be really worthwhile for you. So when you reach out to Chad with ideas for content, please give him what you'd like to see, and then maybe also give us some ideas about when would be a good time to host these. Is it better to do it in the evening, late afternoon? Is it better to do it at lunch? So, we'll try to accommodate that the best we can. The other thing I want to stress is I really want to have a good club competition. And I think that's one of the things you guys have all talked to us about, like, how do we have a really great club competition at Multisport Festival in Irving? This year will be the Club National Championships. That's part of this value proposition. We'd love to get as many clubs as possible. Chad and I are figuring out ways to take over the VIP tent so we can have like a club social and do some fun things with you guys on site, because that's what being part of a club is all about. So anyway, look forward to more stuff coming as part of our club value proposition. But please know that 2023 is going to be the year for us really to elevate this program. Chad's going to lead it. I'm going to be moral support, and we're going to make it really great for you. So being part of our club program and really looking forward to working with you in 2023.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. I also just dropped in part of that program is our club Facebook forum. It's kind of a place where people can post questions and give advice to other club leaders. I just threw it in the chat. If you guys want to join the Facebook forum, it'd be great to have you there. If not, no worries as well. With that, Glenn, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk about club insurance with IOA, and we'll open it up to Q&A afterward. But do you want to help answer, or do you want to answer questions as you go, or would you rather wait till the end?
Actually, I'll just say a few words, and then we can dive into what everybody's doing, that to ask questions and see if you get answers to those questions from me. So a few things. Glad to see everybody on the call. There's some familiar faces to me. For those who don't know me, this is Glenn Humphrey, Vice President of Insurance Office of America. Member of USA Triathlon for 34 years. I was 16 years old. Yes, I am 50 years old as of this past summer. So to this sport, very personal. I get to combine my passion of still racing, Milwaukee in August, you and or many of your club members. I combine my passion with what I do for a living, and I enjoy both. I honestly enjoy way more than insurance. That said, as you mentioned, when your passion collides with your career.
Yeah, he's cutting
I'm
out.
sorry, you're really breaking up. I don't know what's going on with your but no one can hear you, and we want to hear you. So while he's trying to fix that, I just want you should all know that Glenn is also a triathlete. So he's a passionate triathlon. Much better, much better. Thanks, Glenn.
Much better. Yeah, you know what? The AirPods sometimes don't connect very well. All right, so where'd I lose you?
Start from the beginning, please.
Sure thing. So welcome. For those of you that don't know me, I have been a member of USA Triathlon for 34 years when it was the USA Triathlon Federation. I raced back in 1989 in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. And I raced just recently this past August in Milwaukee. So at 50 years old, both my passion and my career have been fortunate enough to collide. And so I get to really take a personal approach to this. So when I tell you that all of you are important to me, I say that honestly and truthfully because I'm a member just as you all are. And I want to see this sport continue to grow like all of you in any way possible. I will be at an endurance exchange. There will probably be a communication coming out from USA Triathlon that will allow you to schedule some dedicated time with either myself or two of my other colleagues, John Burkhart and JD Wallum. John may join us on this call shortly. He had another meeting. He's in California. I actually am based in Maryland, just halfway between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. So look for us there. We'll have a booth there as well. So even if you don't have any questions, you just want to stop by and say hello, love to see your faces there. And third and finally, before I roll, if you haven't heard Vic Broomfeld, our illustrious new CEO, do the podcast Triathlon-ish. That's Triathlon ISH. You can find it on Apple Podcasts or any other place you do your podcast. I highly recommend you listen to it. It is really awesome. She is asked all kinds of different questions, and it really gives more of an insight on who Vic is and what her mission is now as leader of this wonderful governing body. All right, so without further ado, let me share my screen. There's the share screen, and let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Chad, just raise your hand if you can see my club program document. Okay, excellent. All right, that means everybody should be able to see it. All right, there's a lot of words on this, but, and this is publicly available. We can make sure that Chad and or Liz have this at if they don't have it already, if we get it to them. I believe you can access this document from the member website. At one point, I know it was available. Chad's nodding his head. I see yes. So if you have questions about who's covered, what's covered, and how is it covered, the first three sections of this document answer probably 85 to 90% of your questions around those three items. So as a club, if you are a club in good standing, you've paid the necessary fees and dues to participate in the club program, then any member of your club is considered an insured while participating in any club sponsored or supervised activity.
Hey.
Covered activities, again, any club sponsored or supervised club activity that includes anything related to triathlon, swimming, biking, running, transition training, if you're going to do a brick workout, if you're whatever it might be, if it can be affiliated to triathlon sport, if it's a practice, if it's a club meeting.
So Glenn, I was going to ask, does it include club meetings? Does it include, we do a monthly dinner? Does it include all those things as well?
So if you're doing a monthly meeting, it includes all those meetings. That would be considered a club activity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
What you have another question along those lines. I don't know. Do you want to just sort of keep this free flow, or do you want to wait?
Let's wait just 2 more minutes.
Okay.
2 more minutes. If you have an activity that you're putting on, let's say you want to put on a transition clinic. you can do that. That would be considered a practice, as long as all the people participating are members of that club. Then you've got coverage triggers for this program. Okay. Club activities are typically 3 or more member participants is what qualifies as a club activity that is officially scheduled by an officer of the club. Now, officer, even I had a question. What defines officer? That really is dependent upon how you as a club define an officer. So candidly, that leaves the definition a little bit more open. Essentially, it gives you a little bit more leeway, if that makes sense. All right. And let me scroll down a little further. Okay. So you've got some coverages, your GL, which basically, if you think about general liability, it's all the same. It covers anybody's bodily injury or property damage. Okay. Premises, if you're holding a meeting at a restaurant, as an example, then you've got some premises coverage there through the third-party GL. Okay. Host liquor liability. Again, if you're not selling the liquor while you're having one of those club activities, but it is being served as a social, that's also included in this program for coverage in case somebody gets injured, and there is alcohol being served on the at the activity.
Right.
Your limit. Oh, one more thing, and then I'll answer questions. Your limits are also very clearly spelled out in this document.
Hey, stop it.
Did somebody have a question? All right. So I won't go into each one of these what each one of these means, but essentially it's $1 million per occurrence, and then you've got your participant legal liability, which is in the event that a participant in the club gets injured, there is coverage for them as well.
You got a ton
Okay.
of questions, Glenn. Do you want us to just read those to you?
So here we go. Let's fire away. Let's start with the first question, Liz.
Okay, so Eileen has asked if a club activity, excuse me, I can't even read. If a club activity is officially scheduled by an officer of the club, does that officer have to attend the activity? Or can the officer schedule the activity and designate a non-officer to lead the activity?
Well, that's a great question. Again, I'm going to refer back to the language. Officially scheduled by an officer. I see nothing in the language that says the officer has to be present at the activity. As long as it's scheduled by an officer of the club and they have a designated representative there, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be covered under the program.
Michael would like to know, how does it qualify as a club activity? Meaning, is it listed on the website? I mean, how would that, what would designate that category? Category. I'm having problems speaking today.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So again, going back to covered activities, and I get it. Well, what constitutes a club activity? It has to directly pertain to triathlon, the sport. So you can't pull a bunch of people together and go do CrossFit as a club activity. It's got to tie into swimming, biking, running in some way, shape, or form. If it's a social event that where you're going to be discussing something related to swimming, biking, and running, ongoing club activities, events you want to put on, that would be considered a club activity as well. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think just to follow up to that, Team Hammerheads wanted to know, would that include any kind of cycling activity, road, mountain, gravel, that is sponsored by the club?
Yes, bicycling is an all-encompassing term: gravel, mountain, road, time trial. Yeah, that would be my interpretation of that.
Cindy wants to know if our transition clinic was open to non-members, even though it'd be primarily members, would we be covered? So I think that's like, what do they, oftentimes, Glenn, clubs will host these events as membership drives, and the people that come may not necessarily be a member. So how do they work that within the insurance coverage?
So the best way we recommend with the insurance coverage is, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't recall, is there an opportunity for a member to be
I guess.
a guest?
Yes, they'll need to sign the club waiver, which we should also cover as well, but they can have guests who attend their club
Okay.
activities.
All right. So I'll confirm with my team, because I don't want to say 100% that individual be covered. If they're signing a waiver, and who is the waiver something that USA Triathlon provides to the club, or is each club responsible for generating their own waiver?
Each club will need to generate their own waiver. USAT does not provide a waiver for everyone to sign. That's often a question that club leaders have. I would suggest reaching out to us if you don't have a waiver and you need to have one developed, because we have some pro bono lawyers that can assist you in the creation of that waiver as well.
So that's a good question about the waiver, and I'm going to ask Liz and or Chad to put that one down as one that I should follow up on for further clarification from our insurance carrier. I don't want to provide an answer that's incorrect and say yes and it's not covered, or say no and it is actually covered. So I'd rather be accurate.
Matthew, I'm hoping that Matthew had a very similar question, so I'm hoping that answered that for you, and if not, please put a follow-up question in the chat.
Liz, the only thing it didn't answer is if the other members are still covered, if there's a non-member in attendance.
Oh yes, any club members, any active rostered club members are covered.
Excellent, that covers it, thank you.
And Matthew, just to follow up, that's why Chad is so dogmatic about collecting your rosters. We want to make sure that if you've got the insurance, everybody is covered. It's not just to be able to find out who's in your club. It really is to make sure that you're getting the best insurance coverage that you can get.
Excellent. Yeah, Chad's a hammer. Absolutely.
And on that roster, let's make sure first name, last name, email are the required fields. So we're happy to help upload them as well if you have any trouble uploading them.
Glenn, Aaron wants to mention that the general liability summary says 2022. When will the 2023 document be available? And do you anticipate any changes?
No, there won't be any changes. There haven't been any changes in this document for the last couple of years. And that document will be available probably, it might be available prior to Endurance Exchange or sometime shortly thereafter. For those that are on the call, the USAT programs are all in the process of being renewed for the new year. So there'll be several different documents being updated as we enter 2023. Good question.
Glenn, Melissa had a question. I think I know the answer to this because I wish it was so, but I don't think it is. All club members do not need to also be members of USA Triathlon, correct? As long as they're part of the club roster, they don't need to be our members as well.
Correct.
Which is really a bummer, Melissa, because we want all of your members to be members of USA Triathlon. So that's why Chad's giving you the deal for January. Kevin asks, the Aquatic Center is requesting special language in the description of operations, location, special items section of the policy. Can it be added?
This is a good question. So anytime you are asked to provide special language in a certificate of insurance, I highly recommend you send exactly the language that is being requested along to our certificate team. They will review the language and make sure that it lines up with the policy language, because that is extremely important. By law in most states, if not all, you cannot put any language on a certificate of insurance that alters the coverage provided in the actual policy itself. So anybody that gets a specific request from a venue, forward that to our certificate team. They will compare that language request to the policy, and they will issue, or they will contact you directly with additional information, but they will issue the appropriate documents for your request.
We have another great question. We have so many questions coming in, Glenn. It's
I'm good, that's
exciting
good.
that
Just
so many
sorry,
people
just
love
one
it.
question.
Oh, sorry.
The team to reach out to add that specific language, is it USA Triathlon at IOAUSA.com, or is it a different email?
That is correct.
Thank you.
So Jerome has asked, what about a member-led activity? And the follow-up question to that is it possible to get higher than a 1 million that we have today? The swimming pool in his area is starting to ask for 5 million /5 million. So I cannot plan any more practices with this pool. So can they increase their coverage limits, Glenn?
No, not under the club program.
That's where they'll want to sanction it as a clinic, and have everybody be a USAT annual membership, because the clinic insurance, Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong, does have higher levels of coverage.
Yes, I believe it does. And off the top of my head, I don't recall what the limits are. Again, because we're going through the renewal. I don't think they've changed at all, but that's something that we can confirm if you pin that question as well for further clarification, so we make sure we get it back out to everybody on this call.
You know, Chad, that's a really good point too, because that's one of the key benefits to being a certified coach and starting a club, is that you can actually sanction a clinic. You know, the sanctioning fee is very low. It's $50. And you just have everyone either be a 1-day or an annual member. And you can get that additional coverage. So that's a really great way to do it. And I believe that if you have like regular workouts at your pool, we can work with you on the dates of that sanctioning application. So the athlete could purchase a 1-day for the entire series, and that they would only have to pay that once. And then the entire series could be sanctioned under the sanction application. But that's something that we would need to check with Todd on, but I'm almost positive that's the situation. Aaron wants to know, what about team off-season strength training? Are we covered if we're sponsored, if it's sponsored by the team?
If it's sponsored by the club, right? Because you use the word team there, so I want to make sure we're talking about club. Okay.
I would think that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to err on the side of conservative and say that might be stretching the boundaries of an activity, including swimming, biking, and running, and the additional sport disciplines pertaining to the sport of triathlon. I know strength training is an important component of off-season preparation for the coming season. That is something that I can actually ask our carriers and see. But for the purposes of this call, I'm going to say err on the safe side and assume that strength training, i.e. we're all going to meet at the gym and we're going to work out on the free weights and what have you for an hour as a group. I would say not a covered club activity unless you hear further from us.
And that brings up a good point, that if there's something that might be in the gray area of the club activities that are covered, reach out to us and we can always confirm or turn it down depending on what the insurance company says. But go ahead and reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely highly recommend reaching out to your USA Triathlon constituents here, and they'll relay the questions to us so that we can get them back to them.
I think Melissa had the same suggestion we were just talking about. So, you know, sanctioning the event as a clinic and just having people pay the 1-day membership. So that is a really great option. Jane has asked, we have a Slack channel where people will randomly post a run or bike. Is that not an officer? Does that mean they're not covered?
Can you repeat that question for me, please, Liz?
So Jane, the way that they communicate in their club is through a Slack channel. And from time to time, members of the club will post a run or a bike. Would that be covered under the insurance? Again, it's that gray definition of who's an officer and who is not, and whether or not they have to be there.
This is a good question. And this is one of those situations where the lines could potentially be blurred. It goes back to if the person posting the event or the practice is an officer and can show proof that they're an officer, if questioned about it, then it would more than likely be covered. But if they're just a member and not necessarily an officer, then I would say there's a chance that if something happens, coverage could be questioned.
And part of that is how things are scheduled, Glenn. Is there a specific way that you would like to see things officially scheduled? I know it's kind of a open to interpretation question. I typically suggest making it official on a website or a shared calendar, someplace that we can point to after the fact if a claim arises that in fact was a scheduled activity by the club. But do you have anything on that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I'll give you a real world example. There's a club in my area here. They're affiliated with one of the local bike shops. They do a weekly group cycling event. They post up on their Strava group page at the beginning of each week, letting them know what the details of the ride are going to be. And the person that posts that up is one of two officers of the club. And that would be an example of an activity being organized and broadcast effectively to club members. Now you might pick up some people that are not club members in that type of a scenario, and that's what you'd have to be careful of. You want to make sure that obviously if you're advertising a club event, that you want members of the club to be participating, and you'd have to be careful obviously about those who aren't members.
Eileen has a really great question. We've actually had this question before, Glenn. This has come up quite a few times. So she asks, if someone is injured during a covered club activity and sues not only the club, but also sues the club board members to try and recover medical costs, what would the club's insurance also cover the potential liability of the board members?
No.
So what do the board members need to do to protect themselves in that situation?
Good question. That is where a directors and officers policy comes into play. For clubs, I know I helped place a couple of them throughout this calendar year. And that helps to shield the directors and officers from personal liability for typically it's mismanagement of funds or poor decisions on behalf of the club. But it can protect those directors and officers from their personal assets being attacked in a legal lawsuit.
What if the injuries exceed the insurance limits?
If the injuries exceed the insurance limits, then it essentially comes out of the pocket of your director or officer. Once the insurance, like any insurance policy, once an insurance policy's limits are reached, the policy stops responding. There's no more defense, etc. Now, yeah, that's all that I have to add on that.
Yeah.
I don't want to confuse it any further.
I wonder, I mean, and again, this is probably something that would be worth consulting with your own attorneys, or hopefully you have a member in your club who's an attorney, but I wonder if the club itself was a limited liability company or something to that effect that would shield the board officers from that additional suit? I mean, I guess that'd be something they would need to check.
Yeah, anytime you have a LLC or a corporation, you do provide another barrier between your personal assets, and always recommended. But as insurance brokers, we are not also attorneys, so we can tell you what we've seen from best practices in terms of directors and officers and how those policies typically cover a director or an officer of a club or of an organization, whether private or public. But at the end of the day, a corporate attorney is best suited to answering questions around what's the best way to structure my organizations or membership clubs to protect my personal assets.
Chad, that may actually be a really good topic for one of the speaker series. See if we can get some attorneys on to help the clubs with that type of structure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Look, going back up through where we left off. Boy, there's a lot of questions. Do you know where we are?
I don't. I have.
Dave Mudick has the next question. During the meetings for coaching last year, we were told to get the event/camp insurance if we had non-members. I think that's just a statement.
Yeah, it was just a note to the group.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate that. Jeff has asked if we can add a link to the chat to the document. So Chad, you can do that, correct?
It's on the club insurance page, the 2022 one. We'll get it updated as soon as we have 2023. I'll link it here again. I do have one question that, because we have so many certified coaches here. Glenn, can you explain the difference between what the coach insurance covers and what the club insurance covers, and when each would cover which?
I certainly can. Okay. I was prepared for that. Okay. Covered activities for a coach: one-on-one training or training of a group of 3 or more USAT annual members for a group whose training has been approved by a USA certified club. So you as a coach let me rephrase. You can do anything you want. Whether or not it will trigger coverage under your coach's program is another question. If you are training one-on-one with an athlete and you're coaching them and they should get injured in some way, shape, or form under your supervision as a coach, the coach's program provides you coverage for that. If a club sanctions, let's say a club sanctions a transition clinic or a transition practice, and you're going to be practicing transitioning bike run, and they ask a coach to come to that club practice and give some pointers and some coaching advice, that would also be covered under this particular description of covered activities, as long as there's 3 or more members of the club there. And obviously it falls under the guise of the club put the program together, is sponsoring the program, coordinated it, organized it, etc. Basically, what the coaches program provides you as a coach is protection from any claims alleging that your coaching caused bodily injury, it led to some sort of property damage or other personal injury. The coverage basically can include any kind of judgments, attorney's fees, court costs. That's all part of the coach's program, okay? In terms of the limits, it's very similar to what you saw in the club program. It's $1 million with per coach. $1 million per occurrence. Per occurrence.
So if a certified coach is ever having a group activity, they should have this club insurance, right? Because their coaching insurance is only covering them for groups of 3 or more, which would be them and 2 other people, correct, Glenn?
It would actually be the coach plus 3 other people, 4 in total.
Okay.
If they're operating under the guise of a club activity. If they're just training one-on-one, then it's just one athlete that they can be working with that'll pick up coverage for this covered activity. The long and the short of it is they're trying to prevent coaches from organizing large group activities of their athletes. And let's say you as a coach are coaching 5 to 10 athletes in any given period of time. They're trying to prevent those types of large activities falling under the coach's program. They'd rather see that roll to the club program.
Awesome. For a coach certificate, are those sent out automatically, Glenn? With club insurance, they are sent out automatically from IOA as soon as the club is fully registered with insurance. If you haven't received them yet, please follow up with me. I can make sure that it gets to you. But with coach insurance, they're automatically registered when they're a certified coach? Do they also automatically get that certificate?
Oh, that's a good question. Since I don't work in the certificates department. I don't know if that is automatically generated at when they renew each year. That's a good question. We can follow up on that one and find out.
Okay.
Obviously, if they need a certificate or they need to get an updated certificate for some reason, maybe they don't have an updated certificate, they can always contact USA Triathlon National Office, or they can send the certificate request to that email on the club program, USA Triathlon at iowausa.com.
I do suggest everyone, if you're a club leader and you have insurance, make sure you have that certificate of coverage. Even if no one's asking for it, it's good to have for you to be sure that you have everything in for that and there's been no mistakes made. And for some reason, you might not be registered if you accidentally forgot to purchase it. So be sure to get one of those. I do have a question here from, let me see. Oh, can USA team members be signed by multiple club rosters? And say a coaches club and a local club. Yeah, right now, Glenn, I can take that. A club member can be a part of multiple clubs. It's not going to affect the club insurance. That insurance would only come into effect if they were part of a club activity of the club that is being hosted. So if your member is a part of a different club and gets hurt during your club activity and wants to claim that other club's insurance coverage, that wouldn't work. They need to be part of your club in order to have your insurance coverage through the club. All right,
Go ahead, one other item I wanted to address, going back to certificates for a moment, because I've personally seen this, and while I don't handle certificate requests, certificate request turnaround time is typically 24 to 48 hours, and a lot of that can depend on, going back to earlier in our meeting, if you have special language that's being requested, that might take a little bit longer. So as you are requesting certificates, please keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Somebody does ask here if they have 10 plus athletes that they coach, should they certify their team as a club? One, you do get a free club certification if you're a certified coach, so you should absolutely do that. If you want to purchase insurance, it comes down to if you're having group activities. If you're not doing group activities, you probably aren't going to need the club insurance. Your coach's insurance will cover those 1v3 club meetups. But if you're going past that, the club insurance would help take effect. Also, in club insurance or coach insurance, it doesn't include the participant accident coverage, correct, Glenn? That's a part of the club program specifically?
That is correct.
So if you want your club members to have additional insurance coverage, which we haven't covered a whole lot on the participant accident side of things, but that stuff, that will only take effect if they're part of a club and on a club roster. Another question was, how often should you update your club roster? I would suggest anytime you add a large amount of people, go ahead and update that roster. If they're not listed on the club roster, it's going to be a little more difficult to make sure that they do get covered by the club insurance. Some people asking for insurance coverage. Certificates to review. You should receive those already if you have a club. Let me know if you haven't received that and I can help. Send me an email.
Chad, I think it would be helpful to put all of the email addresses that are relevant to everyone in the chat, the IOA address, the coaching, the club, yours.
Yep. I've put it in a few times. Here's the club one. Feel free to email clubs at USA Triathlon if you have any questions. There's a couple of us that manage that. Be more than happy to help you there. IOAs. So I guess, Glenn, should you cover how to obtain the director and officers coverage? Did we talk about that? I can't remember.
No, we didn't. Really, the easiest way to obtain it is to reach out directly to myself or to one of my partners, John Burkhart or JD Wallum. Chad and or Liz can provide our contact information. And we can help facilitate getting the D&O coverage placed. Typically it would be either myself or JD that would handle that request. And then JD's on the West Coast. Actually, he's in the Colorado area. John's in California, and I'm on the East Coast, as I said earlier. So we share the load so that we can make sure that we meet the expectations of all the members wherever you are in the country.
If they emailed the USA Triathlon at ioa.usa.com, does that, and asked for directors and officers, that would eventually reach the correct person, Glenn, correct?
Yeah, yes, it would. Yes,
Okay.
it would.
And
the
that's
other reason,
the
other reason we use a regional approach is that depending on the region that you are located, can also have an effect on the insurance carriers available to provide that coverage for that region. Because as you may be aware, for example, New York State has different laws than California. And so the policies are often predicated around some of those local jurisdictions. So that's another reason that we are spread across the country to make sure that we are best meeting the requirements for each of our members in this program.
And Glenn, the email address that coaches should email to get a copy of their certificate of insurance, that's the IOA USA email address.
Yeah, I would still send it to the USA Triathlon at iowausa.com.
So Mike, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and as you see on the screen, information needed for a certificate, club name, certificate holder name, address, email address. If you're a coach, you could just put into the subject coach's certificate of insurance needed, and then in the body you can put the relevant information, who you are, your name, etc. If you just need a certificate for generic purposes, just for proof of insurance coverage, they can generate those for you as well.
Did we get to all the questions, Chad? There's quite a
We
few.
got to quite a few. I answered a few just in the chat. does USAT offer race director insurance? And the answer to that is yes. You can always sanction stuff as a clinic or as an event, and that's through the sanctioning side of USA Triathlon, those events. And that's when you need a 1 day or an annual USAT membership for all of the participants in those. So if your club is looking to host an event, this is, I think, a good topic to cover, Glenn, but if you're looking to host maybe a mock triathlon, as long as it's not timed and awards aren't given out and it's non-competitive, it can be a club activity. As soon as it's timed and it's open to the public, then we need to sanction it as a true event. But Glenn, do you have any to cover on that topic? I know that's arisen a few times, but
no, you said it pretty succinctly there, and I believe it is also laid out in the club program document.
Anybody have a question that hasn't been answered yet? I'm just working through all this.
Quick question about youth. Does everything that you said tonight apply in the case of middle school age group, K through 18, high school even? Or is there anything different? The safe sport training I know is expected no matter what, but is there anything different?
I don't believe there is anything different. Glenn is, I don't know if, would you, yeah, it's the same insurance policy. It's the same thing. They need to just make sure that they're signing a waiver, that they're on the club roster. And then the third tier is to make sure it's officially sanctioned, or not sanctioned, officially scheduled as a club activity.
So it would be a legal parent or guardian signing for somebody 18 or under, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's another reason why the club program was also structured with a additional sublimit of insurance for abuse and molestation, understanding that there could be minor, in my area in Maryland, I know of a youth elite triathlon club just west of where I live. And so I know that there are still several of those around the country. So nothing really changes in terms of the coverage for those youth organizations or youth clubs.
This is not necessarily related to youth, but it does hit Safe Sport, because I just got a message from one of the teams. You know, the Center for Safe Sport has requested that any board members for clubs that are shown as board members in our system will need to take Safe Sport. That's for the benefit of kids. And honestly, I can tell you, even for adult clubs, we have adult clubs that contact us all the time that say members are being stalked or there's other issues. So it is really in your best interest to get your Safe Sport up to date. If you are not seeing your club in the Find a Club feature, it's likely because a member that is somebody who is shown as a board member in your application, in your club profile, has not taken Safe Sport. So for those of you who are saying, I'm not seeing my club up there, it's a possibility you got somebody out there who hasn't taken the Safe Sport training. So Chad can help you with that. If you want to reach out to him directly, he can chase that down.
Let me add a little bit to that. It's something that we can all see too as the club owner or club president. When you go into the club profile, click on the personnel page. Those are the people that you've indicated that need to take the training. When you click on that page, you can see who has taken the training and who hasn't. It says there's like a little green verified text right underneath the name of either club president. It also includes people who have close contact adult with minor athletes, but there it'll show it. And if there's somebody that is no longer a part of the club or in that position that requires them to take the training, you can remove them there. So you do have that power to look at that, but if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah,
as well.
and the training, guys, the training was really good. I mean, I wish I had taken it when my daughter was a teenager, because I think it would have opened my eyes to a lot of potential issues that are out there. And, you know, you're part of the sport. It's your responsibility to help keep the sport safe. So when you're at events, if you've gone through the Safe Sport training, you may see something at that event that you might not have seen if you hadn't gone through Safe Sport training and potentially kept a kid safe. So, you know, it's not a pleasant thing to have to take the training the first time around. The refreshers are much faster, but it's a really good thing to do.
Dave asks on, it looks like Dave might have a regional club or more of a national team. If the team's national and has club insurance, that insurance is only going to come into play when it's an in-person club activity. It really doesn't matter where the club is at geographically or where the meeting of the club is. So if you're meeting in Chicago before a race or something to train, that would be covered as long as it's in person and everybody's there. When it's a virtual activity, or if you're coaching 10 different people all around the country virtually, that's not going to be covered by club insurance. I hope that answers that question. The optional $100 benefit, I think what you're referring to, the $100 would be a club sized of 2 to 25. That's the insurance coverage that you opted into. Club certification is required by everybody. It's $50. If you're a certified coach, that fee is waived because of the coaching certification. But then the insurance is the extra fee, and it would be $100 for 2 to 25 club members. It's based on the tier structure. I've shared the page a few times if you want to see the tier structure for insurance, but that's what that $100 fee was most likely. And if it's not, just let me know.
John wants to know how long it takes new officers to go through safe sport training. The first class can be, I don't know, 60 minutes. It can be that long, but subsequent classes are only 15. So each year you take a refresher. There for you 3 refreshers before you have to take the full course again.
Well, what I was asking really was how long do we have to get our new officers to get the training done?
Not how long you had to sit in front of the computer.
Not that. We just went through our elections, and we have a new board starting. And I mean, some new board members starting January 1st. So just, do we have to have it all done by February 1st or March, or is there a timeline on that?
The compliance team here wants it done as soon as possible, obviously, but there is like a 40-day grace period for them to get that completed. That's with the safe sport requirement that they implement on all national governing bodies, including USA So I do suggest getting it done as soon as possible. I think they'll probably be receiving emails to take that training. As soon as they're listed in there, they should get an email inviting them to take the training. And then another good point to mention is, as clubs expire, as the club safe sport for each individual expires, they get an email at 30 days before it's expired, 15 days before it's expired, and then on the expiration date. And to get the renewal in, they need to have it done before that expiration date hits. So that's when the club would then be out of compliance. But for new members, they get 40 days.
So Chad, I just want to throw one additional thing out there, because I know we've been on for about an hour now. I've got a hard stop at 7:15. But if you have additional questions, obviously you can send them to Liz and or Chad at the conclusion of this if they haven't been answered. For those that have been sent that we didn't get answers to that we said we would, we will get answers, and then we'll disseminate them back out to this audience. And then, as I said at the top of the hour, I will be at an endurance exchange with my partners, so feel free. Again, I know that there will be a link disseminated to club and race directors and even coaches that will allow you to schedule some time on my calendar while I'm there, and we'll be happy to answer your questions there. Even if you walk up to the booth and say hi and have a question for us there, we'll answer them to the best of our ability at the booth, especially if there's 2 or 3 of us there. It'll be a good time. Look forward to seeing some of you folks.
Absolutely, Glenn. Thanks so much. Any other last questions? And then I think we're 5 minutes over, so we can all get to dinner. We have a department outing today with Liz. So
no, we thought this was going to go longer, so we're rescheduling it, Chad.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Liz, will the endurance exchange be virtual as well? Liz, you want to take that one?
So the endurance exchange program itself will not be virtual. There will be certain sessions that will be recorded and will be made available through Triathlon Learning for CEUs. We're really trying to bring the community together. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to actually physically be in a room with one another and chat, and that's really the goal for this year's Endurance Exchange. If you're attending Endurance Exchange for CEUs for your coaching certification, you can take them after the fact. I will tell you, it will probably be less expensive to come to the conference in person and be part of all that than it will be to purchase those after the fact. And thank you, Mike, for your feedback on voting for Arizona in 2024. We think we have something even more exciting for 2024, but we won't be able to announce that yet. But I guarantee you it'll be someplace warm. And so we hope we see all of you at Endurance Exchange. If you have any questions about discounts or how you get there or where you stay, we have some good hotel discounts there. By the way, all the flights are super cheap right now. I just booked my flight to Austin and it was under $300 round trip from Colorado Springs, which is like a podunk little tiny airport. It's always more expensive to fly in and out of the Springs. So I would imagine from big hubs, it will be pretty cheap to get to Austin. So we're really hoping we get a chance to see you there. We actually do have a local club in Austin that is going to host a track workout on Thursday. They're one of the largest clubs in Austin. They have about 300 people. So if you come, it's a half a mile from the convention center. We're just going to run over there and do a track workout with this club. So there's going to be lots of really cool things. You get to do the swim workouts, you get to do the club workouts. We have some great speakers. You can see the lineup if you go onto the Endurance Exchange website. It's really worth coming, and we hope we get a chance to see you. I personally want to get a chance to see all you. Many of you I know from previous roles, and I'm kind of anxious to reconnect and, you know, have a beer at night and kind of figure out what's going on. So.
Awesome. Well, we hope to see you at Endurance Exchange. Glenn, I want to thank you tremendously. You and your team do a great job at responding to everybody and getting the certificates out as fast as we can. Really want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody else that could attend the call today. I see a lot of names. I wish I saw some more of your faces, but I'm just joking. Hope everyone has a great evening, and reach out to me if you have any questions. If you sent something in the chat that you didn't get answered, please send me an email, or if you have some feedback that you'd like for us to implement. I know I got a few that I've made notes on, and I'll follow up. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chad.
Back in.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it.
Bye, Mitchell. Good seeing you guys.
Chad, I'm trying to stop the recording.